Hey, Don, welcome. Welcome, welcome.
Morning.
Oh, shit, it's morning? I messed this day up.
I know. How are you thinking?
Good to see you, man.
Indeed.
Where are you tuning in from today?
Just my house.
Nice. It's so rare that we've actually got like nice lighting uh in our houses right now. I mean, I'm like super backlit right now. Let me change that actually. What happens if I point it down a little bit? That's a little better. That's a bit better. Hey, Chrissy. Hey, Don, how are you?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, perfect. What's this page all about, man? It's my first time on here.
Well, welcome. So I'll tell you, generally like how our meeting will typically go,
Okay.
just so you have an idea of what we're doing and into. We'll get our business done up front. Usually it's about 15 to 20 minutes of us talking business, what's coming up with the club. And then we'll have our guest speaker on. And then we will proceed with, future meetings and whatnot.
Oh, okay, cool. Is there like some sort of Q&A type of thing throughout?
Yeah. Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about yourself so far. My name's Chris. I'm the president right now. Actually, I'm going to rename myself Chris Gonzalez, president. Yeah. How'd you get into homebrewing? Have you brewed a first batch yet?
Yeah, I've been brewing for maybe just under a year. My friend and my brother and I, we started brewing, well, just because we wanted to make beer that was for us,
Yeah.
And we've been brewing probably for about a year or so.
Nice. What kind of beers have you brewed?
We're still learning quite a bit. It's a tough process for sure.
Yeah, there's a learning curve for sure. Especially, everyone's got their own way of doing things and everyone's setup is different. So, how you do it, dictates how your beer turns out.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So so what beers do you like to drink? And, what have you brewed so far?
Well, I like the more aggressive beers, the IPAs. They're really popular, right now.
Oh, the last 10 years. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And there's such a variety that you can do with, well, every beer, really.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So, how many batches do you think you've done in the last year? Like 3? Or you're like 12?
No, yeah, we're more so around maybe 15 or 12.
Dang, that's some good progress for, under a year. That's impressive.
Yeah, well, we did hit the ground running.
Yeah, right. And all the bars and pubs were closed, so no time like the close time to start brewing beer for yourself, huh?
Absolutely, the best time to start.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've done some seltzers and some meads, but they still need a lot of work.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've brewed quite a few seltzers. Meads, I've only brewed one before. But we had a John. I can't wait until John Johnson comes back to the meetings. I was talking to him recently. He brewed I think 6 or 7 really killer mead batches that were good.
Nice.
Yeah, which batch so far that you've brewed was your favorite?
Well, right now we're trying to re-replicate it. Actually, it was
the
a
hardest part
that we made last year.
Nice.
Yeah, but we haven't been able to get back to it. It's always a matter of we don't have the right ingredients.
Oh yeah.
Our yeasts are always different, or the mixture of hops.
Yeah. I feel like for my base recipe, I dialed in a base recipe first, and then I started messing with my hops. Just to give yourself like a benchmark for, where you want to be for malt first, and then the hops kind of follow. But yeah, I mean, yeast is yeast in my opinion. There's a lot of different varieties, but most of them will turn out good beers.
Yeah, well, as long as there's alcohol in it, right?
As long as they're what?
There's alcohol in it.
Oh yeah, right.
We have made
Cheers to
some
that.
that are just horrible when we first started, like 2% or 3% beers.
Oh, were you doing all grain batches like from the start?
Well, no, not from the start. No, we did
Okay.
kits initially.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Nice. So let me pull up what we're going to be talking about today before we get too far into this. Yeah, anyone else, feel free to jump in, introduce yourself. Anybody. Hey, I'm Chris, I'm the president. But look, these are like most of the other people of the group,
Hey, I'm Chris, I'm the president. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Dad jokes, Yeah, I'm Matt. I think I'm the membership director. Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's me.
I'm Chrissy, Vice President. That's it.
Hello.
I'm secretary.
Oh, there's Kenny.
It's funny the way that he like blasted back from that. I felt the same way. I was like, wow, it's so blurry over there. What the hell's happening then?
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? I caught the tail end of that. So for anybody that's new, I'm Kenny. I'm not an officer, but I have been in the past. But I'm a pretty avid home brewer. Haven't brewed anything within the last month or two. Well, that's not true because
You brewed last weekend.
participated in Big Brew. Yeah, Caitlin and I split the duties on that one. So I started it and she was able to finish it because I had to work. So, but nice to see everybody. I literally just got home. Got to take.
Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figure I'll probably wait 5 more minutes before we start on any business. Just to, give anyone else a chance to pop in. And yeah, so I'm also just putting together the agenda so that everyone can, visualize what we're going to be talking about and in what order.
What's
Nice.
everybody drinking on right now?
Drinking a Coors Light.
Nice. I actually have here one of Dave Breyer's brown ales aged in a bourbon barrel.
What?
Yeah, I know. It just showed up at my house. His wife sometimes hangs out with my wife. They actually work together and they sometimes walk together, and so every once in a while she drinks beer. She comes over,
Heck yeah.
I can
which is
walk.
very rare, but yeah, so pretty tasty.
Lucky.
I've got
I know.
water.
Oh, and I've got a fun announcement that I think only one of y'all know about in terms of beer for the next meeting. I'll wait until I get the agenda up and then I'll
Tell
tell
us
you guys
now.
about it. No, not yet.
Tease.
There's a 22-ounce beer waiting for you somewhere.
Okay.
I think, Chrissy, you already know what it is, but
Like a scavenger hunt or what?
well, I mean, the Easter Bunny got bored after he came to town. No.
Not bad. We should do a beer scavenger hunt.
Oh, dude, I would love to do that.
Let's do it.
Stash a beer or two, but then, oh man, some disappointment would ensue.
It's possible.
All right, holy moly, it is May 6th. That is crazy. 2021. All right.
So I'm glad everybody asked what I was drinking on. I've got a Kolsch that is wicked bright right now. You can totally see through it. Yeah, it's pretty tasty. It's nice on this kind of warm day.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
Make
I'm
that
having
thing.
a mind haze.
Oh, the Mind Haze from what's it called? Firestone Walker?
Firestone, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Welcome, Randy. Looks like we've got a few new faces in the crowd. I mean, proverbial faces. All right, we are almost ready to start our business. Just wait 3 more minutes. I am excited to talk about a few things that we have been doing as a club recently, actually. We got Big Brew Day, Pink Boots. We've got American Craft Beer Week coming up. We've got the Melvin Boyle Rumble, which I'm excited to talk about. Our guest Q&A is going to be Glenn Tinseth, the author of the Tinseth Equation, which is kind of predominantly how most brewers these days do their bitterness calculations. So I'm excited to talk to him, not necessarily about that specifically, but about, homebrewing in general and where he's been and, where he sees people at these days. Just out of curiosity, did anybody pick up a commercial calibration beer? No? Okay, neither did I. They were out by the time I got there, so. All right. Oh, and I've got an update from Gabe regarding Humboldt Homebrew Fest 2022. So exciting things coming our way today. Let's see, I'm almost there.
Wait, did you say 2022?
2022. I know, it's crazy to think about that far ahead, but we're already like we've almost hit the halfway point for the year. All right, let's see. What did I say? Homebrew Fest 2022. Because it is the year 2021 right now, right? Can we have a redo on last year? Just call it the same year?
Yeah.
All right, and then any beer feedback? Yeah, I think that is it. All right. All right, well, I'm going to share my screen so y'all can see what we're doing for the meeting today. For our agenda, we've got, I'll even number it just for the sake of making Hans's life a little easier. Thank you, Hans, for keeping minutes. I appreciate it. We appreciate you, especially all the people who can't make it online and digitally on a timeline, because I feel like there are at least, 15 more of us that are usually, at meetings in person who don't make the online versions, which, hey, I don't blame them. Some people have Zoom fatigue. Some people don't want to drink their own beers in front of a camera. So anyway, welcome. This is the May meeting of the Humboldt Homebrewers. For those of us who have not joined before, Randy, welcome. Dawn, welcome. It's great to see new faces. Once again, this is only about half of our active population usually, so there's more of us. Randy, if you don't mind, I would love to hear, what got you into homebrewing and, what brought us to this group. He's saying he doesn't have the unmute button hit yet. He's almost there. If you tap on the screen and then it should bring up a little bar to hit unmute, it looks like a microphone icon. There you go. Yeah.
Go ahead.
We can
I'll
hear
hear
you,
the
Randy.
sound now.
stumble through here.
What was that, Randy?
Yeah, I can hear you. Like I said, I'm extremely hard of hearing, so I'm going to look at you closely because I'm a lip reader. So if you say something to me, I'm probably not going to respond. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks. Well, thanks for coming.
Okay, thank
whether
you.
you respond or not, I appreciate you guys coming and hope you enjoy the. Yeah, Kenny, go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick, if you're having issues with, your connection or whatnot, you can always use, I think there's a chat underneath where you can type in questions to communicate with us as well. So it's good to see you, Randy and Don.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to the meeting.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So I'll just preface all of this with, hey, we're hoping to see y'all, coming to the meetings more frequently, and hopefully we get to know you and you get to know us. And as events start to prop up and get more prevalent, we hope to see you there too. Randy, do you have any? If you could answer with one word, what beer would you drink if you could drink one beer for the rest of your life?
Bell's Two Hearted Ale.
Ah, that's a solid beer.
I'm an IPA kind of guy.
Nice. So Randy, are you new to the area or just new to homebrewing?
I'm originally from the Midwest. I'm from the Ozarks. I'm a hillbilly from the Ozarks of Missouri. My wife and I moved here to Eureka going on 8 years ago. Like to drink beer, like craft beer. I'm kind of interested in the group because my son lives in Reno and he homebrews a lot. So I've kind of been over there a couple times in on it, but I would kind of like to get a little better understanding to surprise him when I'm over there when he brews sometime,
Nice. Well, hey, thanks for sharing. And we would love to, share our knowledge with you and hopefully get you brewing in your own house.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. Hey, Don, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and, what got you into homebrewing? Don probably stepped away from the computer. So we'll.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, no, he's here.
I heard my name. What's going on?
Don, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about how you got started in homebrewing, or, are you new to the area? Have you been in the area for a while?
Well, I'm not even in the area, honestly. My girlfriend found your group on Facebook, and I thought it'd be interesting to, check on it because I'm always looking for some advice and stuff,
Well, hey, that's what we're here for. And, feel free to post on our Facebook page. I'm assuming that's how you found us. So post on our Facebook group with any questions you've got, like any time of day, whether you think it's a low ball or it's like a really difficult question, we're here for it, and you'll usually get more in-depth responses from our Facebook group than you usually will in our meetings.
Okay.
Just FYI, because a lot of people have eyes on the Facebook group, and some of them are even, professional brewers. Some are seasoned veterans of homebrewing of like 20 years. So if you've got an itching question, feel free to post it on Facebook. You'll probably get more eyes and more answers. But we'll do our best to answer any questions that you're curious about.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just checking it out right now, and seeing what it's all about.
Yeah. So in a normal year, usually we're participating in events where we can donate our homebrew to, or we can donate our homebrew by pouring it at different festivals around here. So that's a huge draw of our group. For the people who we see, very frequently. We just love giving back to the community, and we love, spreading the gospel of homebrew, because what's cooler than having that artistic outlet other than brewing beer and getting to drink it and share it with your friends?
For sure, absolutely. I agree. It's great.
All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen. Thank you guys for introducing yourselves. I'm happy you're here. And I'll progress on through our agenda for the meeting. So first off, Big Brew Day was last weekend. Thank you all to everyone who showed up. Thank you, Christina and Hans, for hosting a big brew with a few people who came over previously. I hope you all had a fruitful brewing session there. Kenny, thank you so much for donating the raffle prize for our live stream event. Wendy Brown is the lucky winner of that 5-gallon batch recipe. I mean, not just the recipe, but all of the ingredients for that. Kenny, do you want to talk a little bit about that? You know, how was the brew shop on Big Brew Day?
You know, for full disclosure for the folks that are in here, I own the local homebrewing supply store, Humboldt Beer Works. So I'm also an active member in the club, but we don't have any other option other than ordering online. And so, you know, I do run the homebrew shop, and I do help support the club in one way. I donated an ingredient kit for the Stargazer Double IPA recipe, which was an official recipe from the American Homebrewers Big Brew Day that just so all those recipes are available online. Wendy Brown, who's one of the dues paying club members, her name was drawn in a raffle in a little spin the wheel of names, and she came and picked up the ingredients, and she was super stoked. And I'm really excited to be a part of an event like that. The shop, you know, I'm always busy doing something. I started out the brew. We've got a 10-gallon all electric all grain system in the back of the shop, and I started the brew. And my girlfriend Caitlin, she came in to help finish on the tail end of it. She did the
I got there 14 minutes after you mashed in. That's more than
yeah,
the
she
tail
did.
end.
She did she did the tail end of the mash, and
I did
and
most of it after that.
and then she even cleaned up afterwards. So the shop is always a lot of fun, especially when there's a brew day going on. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it wasn't really publicly available, but I did try to post several stories online and shared them with the club, and the club shared them. And I saw the National or American Homebrewers Association and Eureka Chamber of Commerce also shared the stories that you guys put out. So really great job on the promotion on that. I think you guys definitely deserve a lot of credit. So hopefully I was able to help support the club and promote that event. And I really look forward to working with you guys in future events.
Thank you, Kenny. And it was very helpful to just hit repost or, you know, share the story. That was super helpful for Instagram with a lot of those posts, because creating a post, as you know, takes quite some time to get all the formatting and, you know, get it all nice. It's so much easier to just hit, you know, post a story. So it was really helpful. Actually, the American Homebrewers Association reached out to us via Instagram, and, you know, they basically said, hey, you know, what else are you guys doing for your big brew day? And I told them all about what we were doing and that, and they were like, cool, that's awesome. So I was able to chat with whoever their PR person is there who's dealing with their social media. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah. So yeah, big brew day. I mean, Pete brewed a batch of beer. Matt brewed a batch. Matt, was yours a 10-gallon or a 5-gallon? So
Yeah, we did a 10-gallon.
nice. Hans and Christina, how big of a batch did you guys do?
We did a 10-gallon batch.
A 10-gallon batch?
Yeah.
Nice.
That turned out pretty great.
Yeah, and so that's 20, 25, that's 30. Who else brewed a batch of beer on Big Brew Day last weekend? Randy or Don, did y'all brew that last weekend?
Pizza coming.
No.
Yeah, we just brewed a few days ago, actually.
Nice. Yeah, what'd you brew, Don? Tasty
We
IPA?
brewed No, unfortunately not. We brewed a Mexican lager.
Ah, you have my heart. I love Mexican lagers.
We made it way too late because Cinco de Mayo's gone.
Ah, it's all right. A lager is still going to be delicious, especially 4 weeks later in the fridge.
Yes, absolutely.
So Don, do you guys keg or do you guys bottle?
We're actually just getting into bottling. Our kegging, we're still trying to figure out our CO2 pressure. But yeah, we mostly keg.
Nice. Yeah, that's very ideal of you starting out. Although I do have to say, a lot of the other people in here have kegs. You know, who's overcarbonated and undercarbonated their keg in the last year? I feel like every single person here has, because it's so easy to do.
Yeah, it's difficult to figure that out.
Yeah. And of course, it's also dependent on, you know, how long your lines are, you know, if the sun's out, if, you know, the groundhog showed its face that year. And Chrissy is just about to embark on her journey of kegging. I wish you luck, Chrissy, and please turn to the group if you have any questions regarding that. You know, we're here for you.
Get ready. I have a million.
Million questions. Nice.
I'm still freaking out. I just bottled on Sunday because I wasn't ready to take the plunge yet.
Nice. What did you all bottle?
Seltzer.
What?
An orange seltzer.
Ooh,
I know that doesn't
yum.
count.
That totally counts. That totally counts. Don't write off your achievements, because a seltzer is not an easy thing to undertake, especially, you know, if you're a picky person. So keep that in mind. All right. Well, Big Brew Day. I mean, it was fun. I'm curious to hear feedback from the people who were there at Big Brew Day this year. What is your all impression? You know, like, raise your hand if you guys want to talk. What's your impression on Facebook rooms? Because, you know, Zoom costs money, and as a club, we're spending money on the Zoom account. So I'm hoping to get feedback on Facebook rooms. I thought that it was really cool how we could hit go live from within that Facebook room, and it notified everybody in the group that we were going live. You know, I think that is awesome. You know, what's everyone else's feedback on Facebook rooms? Was it clunky? I feel like most people were on mobile devices. Hans and Christina were on a laptop. It might have been on his laptop, but yeah. What's your overall impression? Anyone?
It seemed to work pretty good to me. And it's nice because most people have Facebook.
Yeah.
Good
I mean,
publicity.
especially for the people who are in here regularly. You know, the people who are in here regularly are on Facebook. I was kind of concerned at the start of the pandemic with excluding people who don't participate at Facebook, but the number of people who have tried to engage with us who don't actively engage with Facebook is like none.
Did it record?
Did it record?
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is if we have a live event, it will record it and it will automatically post it to the Facebook group. And I tested it with Pete. Pete was in here and now he's gone apparently. I tested it with Pete and we were both in there, and it posted it to the page. Like, as soon as I hit live, as soon as I finished the live session, it reposted it to the page and shared it with everyone. So I think that this might be a really good avenue for us until we get to, you know, back in person. So Kenny, go ahead.
Just talking club finances for a minute, I'm not sure, is Zoom like a monthly payment or
Yep.
for the year?
No, it was a monthly payment. We engaged in the monthly, not the annual, because we weren't sure how long this shenanigans would go on for, you know. So we started it as a monthly subscription, and it's still a monthly subscription because we've always been kind of, you know, of the idea of, we don't know when this is going to stop, so it's hard to commit. And I think the price savings is only $20 through the year if you do an annual versus a monthly. So yeah.
So at this point, financially for the club, like you said, it would save money transferring over to a free platform such as the Facebook rooms. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
I think that's a great idea. I thought it's a newer thing for Facebook, if I understood correctly. So that was the first time that I've used it, but I think it worked great overall. Like you said, the club has, or the group has over 500 members or something like that.
Yeah, the Facebook group has a lot.
I think I think you are correct in saying that it's easier for folks that are following the Facebook page to just still be on Facebook instead of transferring to a Zoom platform. It was different. It was cool. I'm glad you guys did that, man. On my end, it was super easy and it was a lot of fun. So if it's not costing the club anything and we're not, locked into a contract, I say yay.
Cool. Caitlin, you had your hand up.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Also, it would make a lot more sense to have it posted to Facebook instead of like YouTube or wherever it's being posted.
Oh,
now.
yeah, for sure.
Unrelated platform.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anyone else have any further input on Facebook? I guess it's technically Messenger rooms. In terms of how you all did it on your mobile devices, did it open Messenger? Like, did you have to have Messenger on your phones in order for that to work?
I think you can do it in a browser as well. So like, I think it required Chrome or Messenger was what my experience was like.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that gives me some more insight. Yeah, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Can I, get a motion? Can anyone motion for us to phase out Zoom as of this month and move to Facebook Rooms?
I motion that we test it next month.
Okay, so I have a motion from Matt to and a second from Caitlin. The motion is motioning to leave Zoom platform for next month as a trial to Facebook Rooms. And I guess I'll take a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, all those opposed, give me a down thumbs. All right, and the motion passes unanimously. Next month, we will be holding our meeting on Facebook Rooms. And I will be going live with that. So I hope that we get a lot of engagement. It will be live. So once again, it will also be recorded and posted to our Facebook page. Don and Randy, I'm sorry I did not give you this disclaimer beforehand, but we record our meeting so that the people who are not able to participate in person have a chance to view it later. We post all of our meetings on YouTube. I think our viewership is under 20 people. So you don't have to be as concerned of this going to like global audiences. I mean, if people in whatever country wanted to see it, I'm sure they could, but we don't have a very wide viewership, but we are recording live and it will be posted on Facebook. So, if you don't want to be recorded, turn your camera off or, anyway, sorry for the late disclaimer on that, but all right. Well, Big Brew Day, success. I think it's a success. I think next year is going to be even better. We'll have a lot more public engagement next year. Yeah, and I hope that for future events we'll be pushing our PR a little harder. We were on some of the local radio stations. I don't know if Randy or Don heard any of that. Well, I doubt Don would because he's out of the area, but we had our event talked about on some of the radio stations. I also co-hosted a show the night before on Friday night for the 5th Friday fermentation show on KMUD and plugged it on that avenue as well. And yeah, so Big Brew Day, agenda item 1, done. So I think as a club total, we brewed 45 gallons of beer. That's impressive. At one of our other events, PalCamp, usually, I mean, we brew a minimum of like 40 gallons usually. Some years we will brew like 85 gallons as a club, all in one fell swoop. It's really cool. because everyone takes their own wort home, you know, and then hopefully brings it back a few months later, and we get to taste this great variety of beer that we all brewed together and had a blast. All right, well, on to agenda item number 2, which is Pink Boots Brew Day. Pink Boots Brew Day was a private event that was hosted by Christina. She and Anna reached out to some of the other women in the club to invite them to a women's brew day. The Pink Boots Society puts together a blend of hops every year, and they will release this Pink Boots blend. And the Pink Boots Society is a society of women's brewers that helps to uplift other women in the craft beer sphere and the craft beer business, and you know, helps to bring what is called, not optics, helps to bring awareness to women in the brewing realm, because it does seem, well, it's a very male dominated industry, and helping to uplift and make space for women is a very important thing in male dominated industries. So Pink Boots Brewing Society put out a hop blend every year for the last, I think, 5 years. And last year, the ladies of the club participated in a brew, and this year they were able to make it happen as well. Last year, it was the last event the club did, more or less, before the pandemic shut down all of our activities. So this year, Anno decided to help bring it back, and I'm hoping Chrissy can talk a little bit about how Pink Boots Brew Day went. No, I asked you ahead of time, you little turkey. All right,
I know,
Christina,
I know,
take
and
it away.
I got Christina and Anna to agree. But
Well,
Anna's not here.
Christina, I hope you can talk a little bit about what went down on Pink Boots Brew Day. You know,
Jeez,
what
way
kind
to
of
go,
beer did you
Anna.
guys brew? What did, you know, I wish Anna was here. I ran into her and actually drank a beer across from her, and she's like, I'm finally vaccinated. I was like, yeah. So anyway, I
We
talked to
heard.
Anna. Christina, tell me about it. Tell me about your brew day.
I think it went really well. I think it was a really good opportunity to collaborate with all the girls in the group, which I'm pretty proud of, that there's so many women in our little homebrew club, and that they're all really great brewers too, from all different sides of the gauntlet. We've got people who know how to do all grain, and then people who are more familiar with extract, and people who are really just starting out. So it was a really good opportunity to collaborate and discuss, and I think we all really missed that. I mean, we probably miss it as a group. Oh, Nancy joined. So speaking of Nancy, the base that we did for Pink Boots Brew was a base that Nancy had brewed with me a while back. So we used that base and then the Pink Boots hops, and I think it really turned out pretty darn good. I think we'll be really happy with the results. Yeah, anything else, Chrissy? Did I miss anything?
So I think y'all had 2 separate brew dates, more or less. You had the first
Gotcha.
one, which was the Pink Boots one, you know, the first foray into it. I think you guys brewed a dark beer, right?
Yeah, so sorry about that. I was thinking of Big Brew Day. So for Big Brew Day, we did Nancy's base, and that was just last weekend. But then, sorry, for Pink Boots, we did use the Pink Boots hops blend for this year. But we did a tropical stout. That was something that Caitlin had actually made for our fermented under COVID conditions beer that we did. When was that? Sometime last year, that we shared, I think, at the beginning of the year and exchanged. And Caitlin had won that competition, sort of competition, and decided to brew that with this year's Pink Boots hop blend, because it sort of lent itself to tropical flavors, which I think paired really well with the tropical stout. And part of the other reason why we used it was because it was fantastic in Caitlin's recipe. And Chrissy and Wendy really like dark beers. So I think it was a good effort on all of our parts.
How much is made?
And we did 10 gallons.
Nice. So that was, I think, 3 weeks ago, right? 3 weeks ago, about that you guys brewed that?
Yep, just about.
Nice. And so at at the Big Brew Day, you all racked into fermenter, or I mean, and you packaged last weekend as well. That same beer.
No, we didn't end up packaging it. We just racked it because there was quite a large cake on the bottom of the carboy. So we thought we'd rack it and actually dry hop. So we dry hopped with the Pink Boots blend as well. And then it's probably going to sit another short bit until we all get together again.
Nice. So you all dry hopped it further. I'm really excited. I hope I get to taste this. Caitlin, can you talk a little bit about your tropical stout recipe? Just, for those of us who aren't familiar with a tropical stout, and give us a quick and dirty version of what a tropical stout is.
It's what came up when I was Googling what to do with chocolate malt and tropical hops. I was not familiar with the style really at all before I brewed it. This was a first attempt, and I'm really happy with how it came out. I don't remember the recipe off the top of my head, but it's posted to the Facebook group for anybody to go and find. But I did also wind up sending it down to another beer competition, and we just finally got notes back on that like a week ago.
Yeah.
And it did make it to mini best of show, so that's exciting.
And what was your score?
I got a 40.5 from 2 different certified judges. So seemed pretty good.
Dang, that is huge for a first time recipe. Like,
Yeah.
Caitlin, that
First
is
time
phenomenal.
I'm familiar with. I'm familiar with it now, I guess. I don't know
So
how to define it necessarily. It's just a nice dark, sweet stout that's got fruity notes to it.
yeah, we just quick note on the competition that she sent it to. We competed in essentially a pro-am with Del Cielo Brewing down in Martinez. So we sent these down to Martinez, and a lot of the folks from Club Doze were part of the event as well. And I mean, she made it to best of show and got an AHA BJCP certified judge to give her, an average of 40.5 or whatever it was. That's huge for one of her first times doing this recipe. So I'm really proud, and I'm really stoked that the ladies took this recipe on, and I'm excited to see what it's gonna taste like.
Yeah, that is amazing. Like, I hope everyone else can, appreciate the effort that goes into not only brewing the beer, but the recipe creation, and then also sending it off to a competition. Is a lot of work, and kind of, a big deal to get such good scores back. Like, that's awesome. That is awesome, Caitlin. Congrats.
Luckily, he was entering the competition too, so he just packed my bottles in with him. So made it really easy for me.
Kenny, you enabler.
Well, she scored better than both of us. My German Pilsner was not a success, but I got some good feedback on that. And my Belgian Dark Strong did pretty good, but there's a lot of really good brewers, especially being part of Club Doze. And it was just an honor to represent the club, because I think the video of it is posted on Del Cielo or Club
I think it
Doze's
was Club Doze.
Facebook, and you
Oh,
can even
sweet.
hear them. Yeah, when they're announcing the winners, they're even saying, "Man, we had entries from Humboldt. Wow, man!" And they were talking about the tropical stout, man. And I think it's really incredible, and it just really shows that even though we can't be together, we can still represent the club and do something really awesome. And the fact that the ladies took this to the next level and did the Pink Boots with it, I think I'm really looking forward to that too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
that's
too.
awesome. Hey, Nancy, welcome.
Thank
So happy
you.
to see you.
Happy to see you too. Just out having a couple of beers, so I was running a little late.
Oh, darn. Well, speaking of beers, if anyone needs to take a bathroom break, now would be a good time. If anyone needs a beer break, we'll chew the fat for a minute or two before we get on to the next agenda item. But in the meantime, while you are getting beer, relieving yourself, I want to talk a little bit about tropical stouts, just briefly. And then I want to hear about Nancy, or about the brew day with Nancy's base recipe, the Big Brew Day. Hey, Glenn. Glenn, thanks for joining us. All right, so tropical stouts, they originate from the Caribbean area. They are slightly more sweet than a typical stout. They also have traditional English hopping with East Kent Goldings, Fuggles, but Caitlin's example that we got to taste for the competition was just standout. Hey, Glenn. Oh, Glenn, he can't hear us. You may need to check your computer sound. Mac or PC? Don't mind me, I'm just gonna help our guest get his computer ready for us to talk about. Oh. Can you hear us, Glenn?
Got it.
Ah ha ha, there we go.
Yay.
Man, I'm sorry you've been Zooming all week. I hope your eyes are doing okay.
Well, I teach at Humboldt, and so it's the way we do things right now.
Ah, yes.
Although this looks like a much less ruly crowd.
Yes, cheers to joining us on the first Thursday of our month. It's always for me, it's relaxing and also great to see friends who have shared interests.
Excellent.
Well, Glenn, I'm just going to hit on, let me look at my agenda really quick, and I'll show you where we're at, and then we'll proceed to the Q&A session. So it'll probably be no more than 7 to 10 minutes from now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so we just talked about Pink Brew Day. I apologize. I think we're gonna, skim over going back to Big Brew Day. So we'll skim over that, finish up Pink Boots, talk about Homebrew Fest 2022, and then Wendy's Chai Tea Russian Imperial Stout feedback. That should be pretty quick. And this will also be quick. We already talked about this, so I'm going to move that up here. All right. Well, Humboldt Homebrew Fest 2022. Gabe reached out to me today, and he wanted to get a feel on everybody because he's like, if the Engineers Without Borders goes through all the effort of putting on a Homebrew Fest in April of 2022, how are you all feeling about attending and pouring? And what is going to ruin the festival for you versus just modify it to make it more COVID safe come April. So he said, first off, he's intending to do the Arcata Community Center because it's less of a financial obligation for the Engineers Without Borders. But he said get a temperature range, how's everyone feeling? So I want everyone to take their thumb, if Engineers Without Borders put on the festival in April of 2022, how likely are you to want to pour? If you wanted to pour your own beer, I feel like a majority of us are vaccinated, feel safe, being in public spaces, but how do you feel about pouring at that festival? Give me a thumbs up if you feel comfortable in April of 2022. Give me a thumbs to the side if you're like, well, I don't know yet. I don't really know how our county's doing, how it's going to end up in April. Or give me a thumbs down if you're like, I still think it's too soon come April time. Give me a temperature check. Everyone hold it up there for a second so I can see. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like, so. Yeah, so it's kind of a mixed bag. Like we don't really know where we're going to go for that. So I feel like for Gabe, I'm going to have to tell him like, it's kind of a mixed bag for us. How do we feel? I don't know, but already I want to also give you another heads up. He said they're already planning on reduced occupancy It will still be indoors at the Arcadia Community Center, but he is curious how you all feel about reduced capacity. Hans, I see your finger coming up.
We'd be brewing, the homebrew festival would be on 4/20.
I think we usually do it like the second weekend in April. It was like April 12th, I believe.
Okay.
Kenny.
He's muted.
Yeah, well, there we go. Thank you.
Sorry
Chris.
about that.
Sorry, I'm missing my glasses, so I'm also having to squint really hard. First off, I think, you know, we got to think that if they're gonna put on something like this, regardless of how much effort they put into it, it's got to be a safe situation for everyone involved. So with that being said, you know, we're talking a little less than a year out from now. Who knows what's going to happen? However, if it's safe for everyone participating, absolutely, hell yeah.
Cool. Thank you for the.
Same.
Yeah, I think most of us feel the same way, like, you know, safe. So they're kind of trying to feel out the situation of like, well, I mean, do we want to just require like a vaccine? You know, if you're vaccinated, then, you know, it's something like that. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. It's good to see you. Pete has to dip out due to work obligations. Thank you for showing up, Pete. I greatly appreciate you. He's also trying to figure out, you know, at a lower capacity, he wants to bring it back to the way it started, where it was like kind of a small group of home brewers. He's like, I wouldn't mind it being lower capacity and then putting less into it, you know, since it's kind of a gamble with how comfortable people feel. He wanted to find out, you know, like, how would y'all feel about, instead of like the entire event being full of live music, they'd have like one band at a specific time, you know, because I'm okay with that if they only have like one smaller band rather than the entire time. Caitlin?
I would honestly be stoked with that, because when the live band's playing, you can't hear yourself think, or like my throat always hurts by the end of that event because I'm always yelling at everyone and I'm way off in the back corner. So I would actually love it to be a little lower key on the music instead of having to scream at everyone.
Yeah.
It's not a music event.
Now, also the other thing he said is, he said, since it's still, you know, within COVID times, they would likely have to cut the food portion of it, you know. So he was like, it might not, you know, it might lend towards a shorter event, less bands and less food. And I was like, I don't know, you know, food is kind of, you know, it's 50-50 because food is necessary in order to consume that many samples. But at the same time, you know, I don't know. How do y'all feel about, you know, food? Take it or leave it. Thumbs up if you want food, if you still want like the full meal, or thumbs to the side if you're like, well, as long as they have snacks, or thumbs down if you're like, I don't really care about food, you know. You can hold them up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it looks like we're about half and half for, yeah, as long as there's snacks versus, yeah, I want the whole meal. Okay, I'll note that down. They are actually meeting right now at the same time. Engineers Without Borders is meeting digitally right now at the same time, so that's why he can't be here to do this whole temperature check himself. Talvi, you've got a question. Go ahead.
I wouldn't mind if there were paid options to pre-order food, and that might make it easier for them to know how many people want food. Like if you're pouring or if I'm stepping in and pouring with somebody and they have a box to check for an extra $5-10, you can get, you know, some sloppy joes or whatever, some tacos or whatever, as well as having an actual food truck outside of the venue. I don't think in any situation where there is any form of alcohol involved should there not be food as well.
Thank you for that.
100%.
Thank you for that, Nancy. All right. Well, I think this is the temperature gauge that I needed to feel for Humboldt Homebrew Fest. I'm sure that he will be reaching out more after hearing from Engineers Without Borders. So keep an eye on your email or the Facebook. I will be putting it, I'll be boosting it as soon as he, puts that out there. All right, second to last thing before we get to Glenn. Thank you once again, Glenn, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Wendy brewed a chai tea Russian Imperial Stout. That is quite a mouthful. A chai tea Russian Imperial Stout. The ladies already had a chance to taste it, other than Nancy, because I don't think she was at the brew day. So Wendy said, hey, I would really, 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 really appreciate some written feedback on this beer. Can you put it out there to our club members who are willing to give written feedback? Hey, I have only 22-ounce bottles. Darn. So Wendy has 7 or 8, or maybe there's only 5 left. I don't know, Christina or Hans, but Wendy left 7 22-ounce bottles with Hans and Christina to help distribute with
bottles left after this meeting.
with feedback. So I'm hoping that if anyone is interested in providing written feedback for Wendy on her chai tea Russian Imperial Stout, please reach out to Hans or Christina for pickup options. Christina, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute. Thanks, Hans.
We did also put some of the BJCP guidelines for anybody who wants to provide feedback. So they're in that file cabinet with you.
Awesome. So once again, if you are interested in tasting this chai tea Russian Imperial Stout and giving written feedback, please reach out to Christina or Hans via Facebook Messenger, text message if you've got their number, or email them. Facebook is going to be the easiest way for you to get their contact information and message them. That is Christina Watson and Hans Christensen. All right, so I will hopefully be seeing y'all. I'll probably just pick up one incognito mode to give written feedback on. Wendy's hoping to get written feedback before next meeting. So you've got 1 month from now, to get the beer, write some feedback, and hope that Wendy gets that feedback for her beer that she's really looking forward to. This is, I think, the 3rd or 4th time that she's brewed this. So, as we develop our recipes, it's helpful to get that written feedback and tasting notes. All right, well, I'm going to call business. I'm going to reshuffle these to go underneath Glenn. I will show your modified agenda for 1 minute before we get to Glenn. And so just so you know what's coming up the rest of this meeting, we just finished Wendy's chai tea Russian Imperial Stout. We talked about Homebrew Fest, and now we're going to move on to our Q&A with Glenn Tinsev. After we're done with that, we're going to talk about American Craft Beer Week. Basically, yeah, it's American Craft Beer Week coming up. Who's participating? I don't know. Hopefully all of you, but we'll see. We'll see what pans out. The Melvin Boyle Rumble, which I'm hoping we can dedicate some time to talking about, and then upcoming meetings. Does anyone have anything else to add to this agenda before we move on? Colby.
The county fair has announced that they are going to be going on in this year. And that means that there's going to be competitions. They're going to be modified.
Okay,
so
cool. We will talk about that after we talk to Glenn. Thank you for bringing that up. I intended to add that to our agenda. I just forgot about it. Well, first off, I want to thank you, Glenn, for coming, and thank you for sticking around for the few minutes that we had to talk about business. And also, what a freaking weather day it was today, huh? We had some random rains, and we had like almost a 70-degree day like 3 days ago. So welcome, Glenn.
Thank you.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Glenn, Glenn, when did you make your impact on the homebrew world? What year was it when you published that paper?
I was going to say I made the impact on the homebrew world with my first stout at the Humboldt County Fair.
Oh, there we go.
84. And back then you could watch them judge you, and no, only one of the 4 judges would taste it because it was clearly infected. And we were crushed. But that was actually my very first homebrew with a friend. And one of the judges was Michael Welsh. I don't know if he's
Oh
still
yeah,
around.
he's still lurking in the shadows around here.
Boy,
he sure is.
He was a little rough on us poor beginners, but I love him now, but that was the first. Most of the work I did was between 88 and 94 was when I was at Oregon State doing my graduate work. And so a lot of the research happened there because they have the state of Oregon hop lab, and I traded grunt work grinding hops to be able to use their instruments to do the research. And it seemed like a fair trade, although you ground the hops using liquid CO2. So if you weren't careful, you would freeze a portion of your body off as you were grinding them. But, Oregon has a big hop tradition, and Oregon State, and Gail Nickerson, who was one of the leads there, she and her boss, Al Honnold, they invented Willamette and Cascade, and I got to hang out with that crew in the late 80s, early 90s. So it was kind of now historical, but back then, I had no idea the resource that I had there. It was the USDA hop lab. So there's one in Yakima and one at Oregon State University.
Wow.
But yeah, it was kind of fun. I should have been working on my PhD, but instead I was sneaking over to the hop lab.
So what were you in school originally for, before you stepped in the homebrew?
Well, I finished in the same thing I started. I have a degree in physical chemistry, and a lot of chemists are cooks or brewers, or just making stuff. We like to ferment things and find out, we just have a lot more expensive equipment that we can test them with later. So having a couple of spectrophotometers and a gas chromatograph just sitting around makes things fun. Like, what was that smell? You can answer that question.
Wow, it sounds like a proverbial playground for anyone who's interested in the culinary arts.
Yeah, I was supposed to be shooting electrons at things, and instead I was over helping them start up the pilot brewery they were having. And so that's why it took 8 years. I mean, maybe 4 would be more reasonable, but I was there on and off for 8 years.
Wow. So what do you teach at HSU now?
Chemistry.
Chemistry. All right.
Yeah.
So you're still in the field that you intended.
Yeah, actually I didn't. I went into a different field altogether. And when we moved back here after some time away, the chemistry department chased me down and said, you have a PhD, you need to be teaching here. And Humboldt's a teaching college, so it's not like the big necessary for part-timers. It's not the big recruiting that you would have at a big university, certainly for tenure track people. But for me, it was like, can you start tomorrow? Okay.
What year did you start teaching at HSU?
I think it would be 2004 maybe. And I've always been part-time, so not because I have my own business. That's where I am at my office right now. But so that's the weird thing. I also do taxes. So
yeah, plug that a little bit, Glenn. Are you taking on clients right now?
No new client. Nope. I'm on the glide path. I'm hoping to do 4 more seasons, and the only clients I would take on right now are the ones who should be doing their own tax return.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking some time out from the busy extended tax season that we've got this year.
That's why the camera level's up here. I think you can see down in the corner of that desk, there's very little wood showing right now. So we have until the 17th. It's crazy, but
yeah, I just finished mine today. Oh,
yay.
what a year.
Woo.
Woo. Well, I don't want to beat further down this path of CPA and science. I mean, not necessarily like the science that you pursued, but I'd really like to get your homebrew story,
Okay.
Specifically, like, so you brewed this batch of beer in Humboldt County and entered it into the fair in 1984. What was homebrewing like back in 1984 in Humboldt County? Where did you get ingredients? How did you, get into it in the area?
Well, the co-op was really the place, unless you knew people who would travel down to the Bay Area, because Santa Rosa had Brian Birch or somebody. He had like one of the best first homebrew stores. So if you could get to Santa Rosa, you could get almost anything, which was almost nothing. Dried yeast and all that. But yeah, the co-op was good. They had the same place where they are now, like right there where the beer section
In
starts.
Arcata?
Yeah, at the end of that one aisle.
Yeah.
You can get a hydrometer and some grain and whatever, but no, we did a couple extract batches, and then being the chemist, I said, okay, I got to figure out how to do all grain. So third batch was all grain. It did not blow up in the kitchen, and it actually was really good. And so we never looked back after that. And
so what kind of
probably-
beers did you try your hand at when you started? What kind of beers were you into?
Well, pretty boring, trying to match at that time, 1980s Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, because, there's your holy grail. And then maybe some British beers that everybody liked. It's nothing like now, you could brew something that was just okay, and people would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. Now the bar is so high for you guys to even impress anybody. Oh my goodness. But
Well,
yeah,
luckily we still do it these days.
going up to Oregon and being in the middle of hop country, that's when I started the business, the Hop Source. And the only other person selling hops was also in Corvallis, Dave Wills, who had Fresh Hops. He may still have Fresh Hops today, but he was selling pretty sad looking hops at the co-op in little Ziploc bags, little sandwich bags. And they were the best that you could get at the time. And so I
Sounds
said,
like another crop from Humboldt County.
yeah. So I just said, I've got a Food Saver vacuum sealer, and I took it apart so I didn't have to use their stupid expensive bags. And I bought bags by the thousand from someone else, and started buying whole 200-pound bales of hops and repackaging them in 1 pound and 4 ounce, little vacuum sealed bags. Had a lot of homebrew clubs who would make group buys. And so, you'd buy, if you bought 10 pounds, you got 25% discount. And so it turned into a little side business for my
How were you
family.
advertising this back in the early 90s?
Well, I was really active on the Usenet groups. So rec.craft.brewing was the place where you went to talk with other people. But it was weird because it was kind of like a self-selecting group of engineers and geeks, because the only people who had access to the internet were really engineers and geeks. And so everyone wanted to know things to the ridiculous level, right? How many thousands of grams of hops did you use? And it was weird, but I felt comfortable because I kind of was one of them. And they're talking about these PID temperature controllers in the early 90s on how you can control your mash temperature to the 100th of a degree, because that's important.
So this type of beer nerdery is nothing new to this age. Like, this was around in the late 80s, early 90s too.
And that's how we all interacted on this. You get one digest a day of a bunch of messages. And so you would wait for that moment when the digest was mailed out. And then, the ones that pissed you off, you'd angrily type a response, but then they wouldn't get to see it till the next day because the next digest wouldn't go out. So it was like a really slow Facebook with no pictures. And no terrible owners either. It was all just an internet cooperative socialist communist thing. There was no overseer back
No
then.
moderator. If you hit reply, it went out.
Yeah, mostly there was a moderating team who would, if you got axed from that, you were just crushed, because that's the end of your life. I mean, the one internet, there was only the one. It's a series of pipes,
So talk to me about some of the local homebrewing scene at that time. Were there, you had mentioned Michael Welsh and how he was part of the judges at the county fair. Once you started, nerding around and posting on these forums. What were these forums? Or sorry, not the forum. It's a listserv essentially.
Yeah, kind of.
So
right.
was this listserv before you moved out of the county or when you were still in the county?
No, it was probably my last year before I left. And then once I got to the graduate school, then we had much better connection to everything. So it was once I hit Corvallis that I really took things off. And then once I moved to Silverton, then I had the farmhouse and the barn, and I was able to really ramp things up. I kind of became the bulk buyer of everything. So I already had 200-pound bales of hops sitting around. So I started buying pallets of grain from Great Western Malting, which was just up across the border in Washington, and then selling it because I was just cheap. I mean, I had no money.
Yeah, as a graduate student.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
You buy 8 and you keep 1 for yourself. It works for everything.
So you weren't really involved with the hop sourcing until you had moved out of the area and then saw that, involvement or the lack of ingredients that a lot of people had.
Well, and the lack of care. I knew for a fact that oxygen was a problem. That's why we ground the hops with CO2 so you wouldn't oxidize them. But there just wasn't a thing, no one really had ever seen. It was
so new.
It was, and no one knew the difference. Fresh hops were awesome. If you could get Dave Will's fresh hops, it was like, oh my God, these things are amazing. Other than those crappy little pellets that you used to get, they were terrible.
Also sounds very similar to another industry in the area. Sorry to keep making this contrast.
No, it's funny. There's a lot of similarities. I just found that the first time, I didn't even have to sell them. For the first time people tried the vacuum sealed hops that came straight from the farm, it was like a revelation. And so I did that for 2 or 3 years. At the same time, I put together my catalog, and I hate, websites and catalogs that don't add value, right? If you're selling something, you need to also make a person want to come back. And so that's when I first built the calculators, learned JavaScript to do that. And then luckily realbeer.com sponsored me because I was still cheap and I didn't have enough money to actually have a website.
Host it. Yeah.
Yeah. So realbeer.com.
And hosting back then was expensive.
It was, and I didn't really have a website for the business, but realbeer.com, there's in the chat is the link. That's the first iteration of the website, and I've left it because there's some pretty historical stuff there, even though a lot of the links are broken. I had a friend who was a programmer who did the initial programming for the calculators before there was JavaScript. And so the original calculator is built in C, a really friendly language if you guys are computer people, but it's still, the source code's still there. And a bunch of links from the old school national champion brewers who, I just wanted to have, since I had a website, like, here, you can put your stuff on my website. And I think most of the links are broken, but my original calculator for bittering units of hops, and I think I have also a water calculator, water chemistry calculator, just because that was easy to feed into. They're also hosted on probrewer.com, but it's the same group.
Is this the right one? realbeer.com/library?
Oh, it used to be just /hops, but
/hops. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you sent a private chat to someone instead of.
Oh, I was talking to Nancy. Sorry.
It's okay.
I haven't seen Nancy in a while. Yeah, so it's /hops, and then you get to a really beautiful text-heavy web page. Oh my goodness, I'm almost embarrassed, but not really, because I really don't care.
This is how the web was for 30 years.
Yahoo's every front page of Yahoo each day featured a website. And that was what you went to. It was like, oh, let's see what new cool website there is today, because there are only 12.
Yeah, growing up, that's how I navigated the website. And I mean, the World Wide Web was the Yahoo front page.
Yeah, that was it. They were from Stanford. Really smart guys from Stanford who built it. But anyway, so if you look at the table of contents, you'll see a couple of things that are dead. But the JavaScript water chemistry calculator, bitterness calculator, and the beer specs calculator, which I thought was the coolest thing, because finding actual alcohol percent is not an easy calculation. And if you guys want to look at the source code of the beer specs calculator, I did a lot of talking with a math professor at University of Texas at Austin named George Fix, who wrote some of the seminal early books.
Yeah.
And he and I banged this around for quite a while because most alcohol percent calculations are, unless you have a lot of information, they're estimates. You can't do it from starting gravity and finishing gravity as easily as you think. So I just, once I started doing the calculators, I was like, what other calculator can I build? You know, and the water specs one was because I needed to add, you know, minerals to my water, and I just wanted to know how many parts per million that would make. So
I just have to say, this is amazing that, you know, this knowledge and this practice, which has, you know, as of recently had this big revival of like, oh, water matters, you know, like, you know, and you were thinking about this, you were so ahead of your time back in 92 or 90, whenever you put this calculator out. Oh, wait, 97 copyright.
Well, that's
like,
the latest copyright. I think it started in 95 is when I started, maybe. And you can see I still have a little ad to Fresh Shops. I don't even know if it works, because Dave Wills bought me a beer one time, and I said, okay, you can be my first advertiser. There was no monetizing of the web back then, so everything was free, and that was the cool thing about it. But yeah, okay, Boomer, I'll stop talking and let you guys ask questions if you want, or you can keep directing. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I want to kind of push you into another direction of like, you know, how did your homebrewing progress from, you know, the late 80s where you were in college up here, you went to the co-op, got your whatever ingredients you had available, you know, at what point did you start reaching out to some of these people on the listserv and getting ingredients from out of the area? You know, like, were hops the hot commodity? Was yeast the hot commodity? It sounded like maltsters were widely available.
Yeah, they were, but not all the colored malts. We did a lot of culturing ourselves. In fact, I had a whole little microbiology section of my shop where I had probably at any given time 20 yeast cultures in the fridge.
Wow.
But I had a friend who was a biochemist, so he helped me, you know, plate it all and get it all clean. And so, yeah, at any moment you can just pop it out of the fridge and grab a little bit off the plate and build it up. But typically I just repitched, you know, whatever I was doing at the time, I would just do 4 or 5 batches until it started to run astray a little bit. And I was lazy, you know.
Did you ever give it away to other homebrewers? You know, like, was there a cohesive group in the area that you were able to, you know, resonate off of?
Yeah, there was a homebrew club in Salem that I hung out with. And before that, when I was in Corvallis, the Heart of the Valley Homebrewers were huge. And they're still around in Corvallis. But they were a great club. We got a lot of good exposure there to all kinds of stuff. Plus, John Meyer of the Newport Rogue, he would come to every other meeting and always bring a keg of something wonderful, and would bring yeast if we wanted it. So that was always nice.
Nice. So there was a group of homebrewers for you to nerd out with in person rather than all of these listservs, more or less.
Well, a lot of them didn't understand me, and maybe were thinking I was very weird, because I would talk about things like, oh yeah, I'm working on getting this Brettanomyces strain that I haven't been able to find. So I have a friend in Belgium sending me a bottle of Cantillon that I'm going to harvest all the bacteria from. And they're like, what? Never mind. IPA.
So there was still a sect of people in the 90s that were, you know, well, beer is beer, you know, if I can make it turn to alcohol, it's a success, you know. And then there's also the flip side of the coin where you are trying to, you know, bring more science and more, you know.
Yeah, well, I hated to brew a bad beer. And so it was kind of like just keeping track of what I did, and then writing down when something turned out really good, and writing down when something turned out bad, and then, you know, doing the good parts and not doing the bad parts again. But I had brew notebooks that went back a few years. And eventually I built, of course, an Excel spreadsheet that kept track of all my recipes. It was originally called BrewCalc, and it was out there, but I searched a while ago and it's not out there anymore. and there's only like 5,000 other Excel spreadsheets.
So do you still have this? I mean, do you still
I
have your
lost
own?
it. No, I
understand.
lost my Excel spreadsheet. But you know what? The funny thing is I'm in like probably 300 software programs now. At least my hop calculators are.
Oh yeah.
And so, and multiple books. And it's just, I figure, why would I ever reinvent the wheel? Other people are doing it way better than I ever could.
And they probably have grant funding to do it too.
Yeah, some of them. And then the commercial products are just spectacular. There's so much you guys can do now compared to back then. It was, I don't know. I don't want to sound like my grandpa, but you kids these days.
Oh, a lot of us are very aware of how well we have it now, which is why I feel that there is value. There's a tremendous value to hear perspectives from someone who's been brewing since the late 80s. Like that is tremendous to hear the pains that you went through to get hops, repackage them, and try to distribute those to people, because it was a hot commodity. Like people couldn't get these, the Ziploc baggie from the co-op.
Oh, I sent 23 pounds to Kansas. And when it got there, they said, yeah, the post office was really confused. But over the next 2 weeks, and a lot of those folks weren't on the internet, I got these little letters like, oh my gosh, I've never seen hops before, and now that I've seen hops, I will never want to go back. So just being able to kind of share the Northwest love, what we can grow here so perfectly, was really neat. And then, I went to a couple of the National Homebrew conferences. One of them was right there in Portland. And so I tabled that one. And so everyone who walked into the main drinking room had to walk right by my table, and I'm handing out catalogs, and that was a very good year after that one.
Nice. What do you estimate the attendance was for something like that? Like 40, 100, 300?
No, this was the National Homebrew Festival. It was thousands.
Even back in the 90s.
Yeah. I judged at that one, I judged porters, and there were 32 porters to judge over a couple days span. And so times that by all the varieties. I mean, it was like a regular convention, there was people selling equipment, and all the grain and hop vendors were there.
Nice. I don't intend to, be the young lad to ask, how was it in the old days? But I mean, these benchmarks for, where homebrewing has come in the last 25 years, like that's relative, that's not very long in terms of time.
But some of it's so similar. I mean, if you looked at my 3-tier brewing system made out of Sankey kegs and a decent set of burners and an orange cooler, that's my mash tun. I mean, it could be like from yesterday, right? There's people building that exact thing today. A copper bottom that just had some hacksaw slots in it in the mash tun. It worked great. I brewed hundreds of batches on that system. And I know there's a lot of people that I've seen in the back of the homebrew store in Eureka. I've seen that amazing cylindrical conical fermenter and the insulated mash tun that has some sort of temperature heating controller. I mean, those things were starting then, but it was like the real geeky guys who were doing that kind of stuff. I just had a gravity flow system that probably all of you would be able to comfortably brew on today. Nothing crazy.
And it's funny to me because my father-in-law was brewing back in the 80s locally. I don't know if you know Andy Alm.
I know the name, but no, I don't know him.
Yeah, he was part of the NEC, and he blames the NEC for getting him into the North Coast Environmental Center, getting him into homebrewing, because Sid was into it, and some of the other people, the locals, were into homebrewing. And he's like, great, now I have all of this stuff. And he just cleared out his barn, and he's been in the same barn for almost 40 years. And he brought out this kettle, and it was like a steel pipe coming out of a cut Sankey keg with the bung right in the center. And I was like, how old do you think this is? He's like, I don't know who I got this from, but it easily brewed like 50 or 60 batches of beer since the 90s. And I was like, this totally works. Like this still works today.
Oh yeah. I mean, a system like that is just going to As long as you have your other, like the most important message I've always given people with regards to hops is just like the whole process. Make small changes, don't do 10 changes if you're trying to dial in a beer. Keep track of what you're doing and try to be consistent, and having
Amen.
a brewery that you use all the time and inside out. I mean, the first thing I said when I published my calculations was, look, this is for my brewery. And then I told them what my brewery was like. And I gave people suggestions on how to possibly modify the equations if they wanted to use it for theirs. But I didn't make any claims on it being magical. In fact, I said, this will get you within 10% of your BUs. But people took it a little bit more seriously than that. And that wasn't me.
No, it was just about someone coming out in front of the thing and going, hey, I've spent some time to do this and you can use it too, I guess, and I feel like that homebrewing spirit of, creating something from your passion and then having other people adopt it is something that I hope is satisfying and not, I don't know, not harmful or, oh, these people are taking my work for,
I got an email earlier this week, and I do almost every week, from somebody, and he was in like Germany and saying, I'm working on, building a small brewery, and I wanted to ask you questions about your calculator. And I'm like, wow, from 94, I still get emails about once every other week from people. So no, giving this out there free. If I had to make that decision today, I probably wouldn't, because everything's monetized on the web. But back then it was just what you did, and it was giving back really for me, because I had taken so much from other people. And so giving back was, and I was totally selfish. It promoted my business. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I was selling hops and I had articles about hops. So yeah, that was a good thing.
Well, it was for the greater good, increasing the palatability of people's hoppy beers, and also, spreading the gospel of homebrew. I feel like for the pioneers of the age, I hope that you feel like you stand out in the area just for, spreading the gospel, of homebrew.
It was fun at one of the competitions here when I talked to Danny, and he was like, oh, you're a star. I said, no, Danny, you're a star. And we realized we're both not really stars. It's just homebrewers. I worked at Mad River as one of the brewers there, and I was explaining to a friend that I had groupies, and he said, oh, really? You have groupies as a professional brewer? And I'm like, oh yeah, they're all middle-aged, overweight men, but I do have some groupies.
If they hear my name, they'll buy me a beer.
I did talk one person into doing the entire mash and doing all the stirring for me. And I sat back and said, oh, you're doing a good job there. He's like, really?
Later came to brew his own beers for 30 years afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to open up the floor to anyone. Thank you first off lastly for sharing your homebrew story with us, because I feel like of all of the media that has, kind of gravitated to you in the last 4 years, there's been quite a few podcasts who have interviewed you, and
the Lumberjack did me one day. They came into my lab. I'm teaching and they're taking pictures. I'm like, what the heck is going on? They're like, oh, we're doing an article on you. Well, don't you have to ask before you come into my classroom?
You signed a waiver when you got employed, I'm sure. Yeah, but I feel like a lot of the media focuses more on your research and, what resulted from that. But I really like the homebrewer story of, how you got started, what stoked the flame, and, what keeps other homebrewers involved, because these reiterative investments in the homebrew community really help to build a broader base for people who appreciate beer, can appreciate the delicate aspects and the art of brewing. And Glenn, what what beer, what beer that you ever did, or what experience has been really transformative for you? Has there ever been a beer that, was that aha moment for you for, damn, this is why I love brewing for myself,
Well, one of the early holy grails was Snowcap from the Pyramid Brewing before it became bought out by 3 other breweries. They were just there in that little town on the coast right there, on the coast of southern coast of Washington, no, on the Columbia. But that one we chased for 2 years before we got a clone that we liked. And we cultured the yeast from that bottle and everything, and it was hard. It turns out they did a final aroma hopping with nugget. And once I got that clue in there, it was amazing that that's the aroma of Snowcap, was using this crazy high alpha bittering hop to finish. Who would ever do that? But they did, and that was keeping us from getting it right. And then I think Celebration has been, Sierra Nevada Celebration for my whole brewing career has been a beer that I just would, if I had to have only one, it would be that. And that was one that I probably brewed 40 or 50 attempts at. And over time, it was the house beer. And so over time, it got pretty close, but it was never quite right.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn, for sharing this. I'm going to open the floor to any last questions from the audience. Now, anyone have any questions for Glenn? Matt, go ahead.
I just want to say I love Celebration too. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite. I think it is my favorite Sierra Nevada beer. I've got a koozie. I've got socks. I've got a Christmas ornament that is.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a fanboy.
I'm right above the liquor store on the plaza, and they put up an ancient Celebration poster during Christmas time. And I was this close to talking him out of it, but he said, "Oh, I can't."
Dang. Nancy, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank Glenn for coming. It's always good to see him and sharing your information. And, I've known Glenn a long time, and, I just started brewing in, I think, 2014, and I've known him before that. And then I'd start reading these books and I'd see his name, and I'm like, anyway, it's just nice to see you, and I appreciate you a lot.
I'm glad you're here, Nancy. It's good to see you too. After this COVID, we're going to be back all together, but it's been weird.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Talby, you had a question?
I do. I am curious about your chemistry background. I was a biochem major, and I never graduated because I got swept away by the ocean of things. So it seems like you did as well. And you not only did that, I have 2 questions. One's a social question, and another is more of a chemistry question. So the social question is, with everything going on, you seem to also be one who gets swept away with a variety of topics and who hyper focuses on different things constantly. How did you end up always refocusing on beer? And then the more chemical question is, you had mentioned the infection of your 1984 brew that you added to the county fair. Yes, and I'm wondering if you have found a way to not just, obviously there's different ways to combat infections. Is there a way to fix infections once they've already acted? Because you have the chemical background for it. Is there a way to actually fix a beer that's been infected? Can you make it palatable and drinkable?
Well, let me answer that one first, because that would be super hard. Once you have lactic acid or acetic acid or whatever funky tertiary alcohols floating around in there, you'd have to do some serious surgery, and then everything you add, it has a part that is going to be tagging along with it, and pretty soon you're layering all these spectators in with the things that are neutralizing your lactic acid. And I would say treat it as a learning experience. And then what I thought of when you first asked, and this is one of the things that I learned early on, and it applies in the chemistry lab and in the brew house. The most important thing is to know when to worry and know when not to worry. You know, pre-boil, do whatever you want. But post-boil, you got to worry. So cleaning and sanitizing, two different things, right? A lot of people don't realize that cleaning gets rid of dirt and sanitizing kills germs. Those little basic things, you know, if I had to teach a homebrewing class, I would spend most of the time on when to worry and when not to worry. You know, once it comes out of your chiller, which better damn well be clean, you have to really, really worry. So I don't have a way to fix it, but I would say there may have been one other out of hundreds of beers that was infected after that first one. So maybe they didn't sit around long enough. Oh, the social one, sorry. Yeah, my mom said at one point when I was in high school, man, Glenn, you might be good at something if you ever stuck with it. And so, yeah, beer was there because I loved beer and I was poor, and home brewing makes it possible to not only make really excellent beers, but I had it down below $1 a six pack. So win-win. And, you know, it was my favorite beverage. And that was like an event. You traveled and you went to breweries and you went to special stores that you knew about. My wife wasn't super enthusiastic about that part, but beer was multi-parts of my life. So someone else had a question.
Nancy.
Okay.
I have some friends that made a batch and it just didn't work at all. Anyway, long story short, they went up to Madras. I can't think. They have they grow grain up there. They make the La Mantra and I can't remember. But anyway, they took it up there and they took it to everybody. What can we do? What can we do? Long story short, they distilled it.
Oh, that's the answer right there. That's awesome.
Yeah. And they each have these, I don't know how much, maybe they made 20 gallons each of these little mini barrels of, that would be it. It takes a lot of patience.
I just wonder, you know, how do you get rid, how much of the hop essence is going to come over in the distillation? But you could call it gin then, I guess, right?
Yeah. You don't call it beer. It's not beer anymore.
Well, whiskey, I guess, if it was unhopped.
Yeah, whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Nancy. Yeah, that is one strategy. Change it out of the beer realm.
Uh-huh.
Well, they took it everywhere to, you know, there's a guy here who's a triple master judge and all that. And no, dump it, dump it.
No.
And they took it and distilled it.
All right. Any last questions for Glenn before we cut him loose to finish more taxes or go home?
Oh, no, I got dinner waiting, so.
Yeah. Any last questions for Glenn? Going once? Going twice? Sold to his wife with dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, so much
Glenn.
for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. I hope you don't find too big of a hassle from your newfound or old found, you know, celebrity status.
I'm going to put my email if anyone does have a real question and they'd rather not, you know, embarrass all of us. But this is my direct email. So if you guys do have a hop question, anytime is fine. I may not get to you right away, but I'm happy to dig in on whatever question you might have. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Glenn.
Thanks,
and thank
Glenn.
you for coming back to Humboldt County after all of your fun adventures. And thank you once again for helping us judge for, I think that was 3 years ago for our big bottle competition.
That's the last year I had beer. I've been dry for 2.5 years now. I have found out there's a quota. Each of us has a quota, and I must have hit mine because I needed to stop.
Well, I hope we can learn from your experiences.
Maybe your quota is set a lot higher, so good.
Well, thank
So,
you, Glenn.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
We'll talk to you
Thanks,
later.
Glenn.
All right, take care, everybody.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Thanks, Glenn. Aw.
Awesome. I am beyond myself for, getting that opportunity to talk to Glenn. Oh, yeah, just like, and I have to shout out, thank you, Sean, who is one of Glenn's clients, to say, hey, can you talk to the homebrewers? Because he joined us as a judge, but to talk to him as a club and to get that perspective of someone who's been homebrewing since '84, like, who else can have that status in here? Nancy's been around since '84. I mean, we've all been around since '84, but I mean, who's been brewing since '84? That's impressive,
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that, and I hope you all got something out of that you can take away from this celebration. It's a great beer.
He's a great person. He
Yeah.
is. And like I say, I mean, I've known him forever, and then when I started brewing, I see his name all over the place, and I'm like, I mean, he's so approachable. We're really lucky. We're lucky just to know him. He's a good asset.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Well, I'm going to share my screen to show you what else we've got on our agenda. I do have to remind you, it is 8:37, so if you all want to get up and go take a bathroom break relatively quick, we're going to be talking about American Craft Beer Week next. Basically, I just want to see or hear if anyone has had their ear to the ground in terms of what breweries have going on in the local area. I think Mad River is literally the only one that I've heard of that is doing something for American Craft Beer Week that they've been, kind of pushing. So we'll talk about that. The Melvin Boyle Rumble, I have a feeling we're going to have to create a subcommittee for that to sort that out, because I need to look it up what the deadline is for applications for that. The county fair, I'm hoping Talvey has some more information of that. We should probably reach out to the county fair committee soon and in upcoming meetings. So everyone go grab a beverage, go use the restroom, come back. I will start talking about business again in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. You have a 3-minute bathroom break, everyone. All right, go hit the loo, go grab a beer. I'll see you in 3 minutes. Whew. And time. All right. Well, so back to our agenda, American Craft Beer Week. Has anyone heard a peep out of any of the other breweries in the area? No? Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, if anyone hears of anything, share it with me. I'd love to know. Other than that, all right, well, agenda item 8, American Craft Beer Week. Yeah. That's that. Number 9, Melvin Boyle Rumble. All right. So, Kenny, do you know any of the details about this specifically, like the dates, like when entries are due? I know you had, put it on a radar. I could pull it up on my screen, but I'm wondering if you've got any of the details at hand.
I hadn't looked yet, but obviously things are a little different than they were 2 years ago when we did this. For those of you, Don and Randy, that weren't, checking in with the club, a couple of years ago, Melvin Brewing and More Beer, and I can't remember it was the Brewing Network, I think, teamed up for this kind of large nationwide pro-am competition where homebrew clubs from across the country competed to get their beer brewed at a Melvin Brewing facility. 2019, the club pulled together and we pulled off an amazing elderberry and lemon verbena saison with local honey, and we entered it in the competition. It did, I thought it tasted great, but it didn't place. Fact of the matter is, the club did a really amazing saison that year, and it got canceled last year. This year, it's back on, but with different kind of protocol. So all the information should be in that link that I posted to the club Facebook page.
Yep,
I haven't done any more research from that point. I just saw it and I figured, hey man, the club did a great time and pulled together for something really innovative and creative that represented our area. We used Eureka hops and local lemon verbena and local elderberry juice that Pete had donated. And, it was really amazing. And by the way, there's still a little bit of it left. So there you go.
All right. So it looks like the cutoff for all entries is July 19th. So first the pros at CB&B will judge the beers. Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine is the headliner for this year. 2 years ago it was the Brewing Network, so it seems like this year is Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine, judged by their expert panel. And then let's see, next winners join us at the mothership. So the winner of the last competition ended up brewing their beer at Melvin in Alpine, Wyoming. So that would be really cool. Contest details must be 21 years or older. Each AHA Homebrew Club is allowed 1 entry per 25 members. So we need to come together as a club to come up with a recipe, brew a beer, and send it off. It says deadline window for entries is July. So this is the window we have to hit. They open the 5th of July and they close the 19th of July. Entries must be shipped to Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine. You have to do 6 12-ounce bottles as the entry. Champion and runner-up will be announced in August. Brewing in September. All right. Well, let me just go ahead and get ahead of the game. Well, someone sent a chat here. Yeah, there's a cat apparently. I don't see a cat, but there's a kitty. Okay. Anyway, so Boyle Rumble. I would really like if we could bring this into the Facebook realm so that when we talk about it, like there's a collective memory on our Facebook page of, you know, what we're thinking about. But how did the recipe formulation for this go last year? I think we said, oh crap, we've got like 6 weeks to brew this, bottle it, and send it off. You know, let's go with some of our favorite homebrew recipes of that last year. So I think we had talked about like Christina's lemon verbena. We talked about Pete's saison. You know, how do we want to go about this year, Kenny?
So unlike the previous time they did this, we have a little bit of leeway. The last time it was just like real ramshackle, like let's pull something together real quick. I think the base recipe was pretty good. I do believe the club has access to the tasting notes for the results on that. That was a great recipe, but it's a new year and it's a chance to do something different. So I think it would be just really awesome to participate, you know, regardless of win or lose, draw, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that the last time we did this, Melvin was really responsive, and I think everybody had a really good time participating. And I think it'd be really good to do something like this on a regular basis, whether it's this particular thing or whatever. So
Thanks, Kenny.
I say yay.
So I think we do need to turn this out to the Facebook crowd, not just necessarily who's at these meetings. So I am hoping that we can form a committee to, or, you know, is someone willing to head this on the Facebook level of post something, you know, try to direct the conversation of, hey, can we get a recipe, or do we want to just revamp last entry's recipe? Because this is not something that I feel like I have time to, you know, direct and, you know, moderate. And I'd really like if someone else can step up into this position to, you know, help navigate the boil rumble recipe formulation, setting of dates. You know, is there anyone who would be willing to do that?
So I'm not raising my hand to volunteer, but I think Pete has the original recipe. So if we can talk to him and just get that published, and we can look at that. If we want to do a new recipe, we can look at that. I'm willing to help out in any way I can. I just can't be a director of the event.
So I think,
Nancy.
oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Talvi, go ahead. You were already talking.
It's nobody was saying anything, and I had my head raised. I'm not going to take the forefront of this. Though
all right, then please just pause until we have someone to come out ahead of this before we talk more about it. Thank you. I'm looking for a very actionable thing here. Nancy, you had something to add to the conversation.
No, okay, well, the only thing I was going to say is when you do a recipe and you want to present it to a big brewery, you know, they don't want to be looking for herbs and this and that and the other thing. And that's really, I mean, that's important. I mean, you know, if they're going to brew 10 barrels or whatever, that's what I've been told. I mean, if they want to do it, you know, I mean, they all have their little experimental areas, but for, you know, something like this, a presentation like this, they want to be, you know, they don't want to be looking for some herbs out in left field.
Okay. Talvi, go ahead.
So again, I'm not going to take the forefront of this, and I'm saying that as the PR person, though I am going to incentivize others by saying that I'm going to make it very easy for you. You post whatever you need to for the group, and if you make and create a simplistic format and call out to other members, it's much easier to share. It's very easy for me to share that matter. So it's not going to be a difficult job. You're not going to be on your own. If you have questions of how to post other things, it will be very easy for you to do. So this isn't something like, gee, I have to spend 20 hours a week on this. It will be very simple. And I do have to say, I completely agree that I love the 20 ingredient type beers. That's not what wins competitions. So if we are looking as a club to win a competition, then I think looking at trends is important. The Saison was very popular that year, and alternative styles were very popular. Was it 2 years ago that we input this? And we made a good beer. I say we, even though I was not involved. You guys made a very good beer that deserved place. In all honest opinion, it was delicious. If you do want to win a competition, one of the things of winning a competition is realizing what the trends are, what the flavor profiles are, sticking to a style that is easy enough for a group to make, and that would, especially for a brewery doing a competition like this, they want something that appeals to a mass market. You start, again, I'm just reiterating Nancy's point on that one. So as much as I love the season Saisons, that's not going to be what is going to get mass produced. But for what we made a darn good, or the club made a darn good beer. And if you do want to step up, I know maybe Pete, this is a Pete thing and he's not in this chat right now. I think he'd be the one to do that.
All right, thank you, Talvi. I just want to show you, before I move on to Christina, I am on their website and this is the entry form. Like it is literally club or shop affiliation, name, email, beer name, style, but their styles, like they have a drop down. There is quite a spread of styles that you can select. Raggeds, ciders, wild, like there's even seltzer, gluten-free, gluten reduced. There's a seltzer CBD, non-alcoholic old ale drop down. Like I feel like this is really wide open, but I do agree with Nancy. We should hopefully try to narrow this down to something that is commercially producible on scale. Christina, go ahead and take it away.
So just kind of looking on their webpage to get an idea of maybe previous winners, and actually the winner from 2019, contrary to what Nancy and Talvi had said, nothing against that, because I do agree, but was actually a breakfast ale made with coffee and maple syrup. So,
Well,
I mean, those are sort of outdoor ingredients that, I mean, maybe we could come up with something sort of comparable that would be easy to acquire on a large scale. So maybe just thinking outside the box, but not too far. I don't know, and maybe thinking about some things that we've made over the last year or two in our own homebrew areas that turned out really well, that maybe we can submit on our group Facebook page.
Tropical stout.
I think about, huh?
Tropical stout.
Right? And that being said, I'd be happy to head this.
Thank you, Christina. I appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinforce what Kenny had said on our Facebook page. I'm going to take this upon myself to put out to the group in the next week. So if by the end of next week, by next weekend, and I don't mean like 2 days from now, but I mean by next weekend, if you have not seen this on the Facebook page as a conversation, like harass me, please.
Christina just said she would head this.
Oh no, I mean she can head that, but I'm.
Does that also mean PR?
Yeah,
PR
Christina,
report?
do you can you post this on the Facebook page and talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think if it's okay with everyone, I'd also like to maybe, I'm really quiet, sorry, figure out a way to get people to respond by maybe asking the question of what have you brewed that turned out fantastic in the last year or two? What were you proud of most?
That's a great way to frame it. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we can start with that, if we can start with, what have you brewed in the last year? And that one thing I noticed is that last year or sorry, not last year. The last time they did this boil rumble, they had some very specific like disclaimers saying, you know, if your recipe is chosen, you have to turn over this recipe. But this year it isn't exactly proclaimed that whole thing. So, I mean, I think we need to come out ahead of this saying, hey, what have you brewed this year? And would you be willing to share your recipe? You know, if Christina, if you can, you know, preface it with, we are looking for recipes for the club to brew and collaborate for the Melvin Boil Rumble. You know, if you can frame it as, hey, what have you brewed that has turned out really good for use in this specific situation, I think that could help benefit us. Christina, go ahead.
So I don't know about other people, but I am a fan of deadlines because I feel like it pushes people.
A fan of the what?
Deadlines.
Oh, deadlines,
so
yeah.
Since July 5th is actually pretty quick, it's kind of right around the corner. Is there maybe a deadline that I should include that we want to try to brew by, or?
Yeah, so, okay, so it is the first week in May right now. I feel like the deadline for coming together for a brew day to turn in by the, what did I say? The something of July. It was like the second week in July, I think is what it was. Yeah. So we need to have a brew day by, someone help me out here. If it's, you know, if we want it to bottle, I don't know, like someone come jump in here. Kenny, what do you know, when do you think the latest brew by date do you think we should be?
Well, so last time I think we only like turned it around in 3 weeks. That was 2 weeks for fermentation and barely a week in the
Let's not do that again.
You know, realistically, if it's got to be shipped to Wyoming, I think, if that's correct.
Yeah.
So if it's got to be shipped to Wyoming, you got to give at least a week in shipping time.
Yeah.
So you're talking 4 weeks before before that due date.
So we need to be brewing by like the first weekend in June, right?
At the very latest.
At least.
If the club is going to participate in this year's event.
Okay, so it is now May 6th. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 weekends before July. We have 4 weekends before July. So to frame this, I think we have 1 week to come up with a recipe. Oh wait, sorry, before June. I mean, okay, we want a month at least to ferment and package, right? You know, thumbs up if you agree with that. At least a month to ferment and package. Like, I think that's like dead minimum. So that means we need to get this thing brewed before next club meeting, right? What do y'all think?
Or at the very latest that weekend.
Yeah.
I would say you should probably choose within the week and be brewing within 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I'm maybe we should shoot for brewing on May 29th, the weekend of May 29th or May 30th. You know,
That seems reasonable, you know, like end of the month.
yeah. What do you think, Kenny?
Is that Memorial Day weekend?
No, Memorial Day is the weekend after. No? What do you mean? I thought Memorial Weekend was June 5th. I'm wrong about that? Shit. I'm sorry.
It's always
Last
Oh.
Monday in May.
Wait, say that again?
It's
I
May
thought Memorial Day
31st.
was the last Monday in May.
Oh, May 31st. Okay, so actually, so really we should be shooting for the 22nd to 23rd to brew this then, because most people are going to be busy Memorial Day weekend. I can guarantee. Christina, go ahead.
So since it's Memorial Day weekend, I don't know if anybody's brewed those veterans blend hops that Pink Boots came out with, but I mean, that could be a cool idea.
I feel like proprietary yeast, proprietary hops blends might be more difficult to come by because that kind of fixes you in terms of hop distributors. So we might want to shy away from using that hop blend specifically because it's locked into one hop distributor and we don't know what their relationship is with them. You know, if we're aiming to win, we should make this, you know, widely approachable from a brewery standpoint to get ingredients. I agree with Nancy and Talvi on that.
It's a 6 to 8 week brew. I mean, the shorter the brew time, the better for a brewery, and the more easily accessible the ingredients, the better as well. Hence why the coffee breakfast stout works, because everybody has coffee with their breakfast in the United States. Not everybody.
Okay, let's not wax poetic. I want to be laser focused right now. So
No, for sure. Though that's part of this, though, is you have to realize that this is a commercial product, and if you want to create a commercial product, you do want to create something that everybody can relate to.
Okay,
and
so
you can add a seasonal twist if you want.
Brewing. So I'm talking about brewing by May 22nd and 23rd. So we need to get this recipe agreed on in 1 week. 1 week, which I think is totally achievable. And then procurement of ingredients takes a week to brew that following weekend. So we have 1, 2, 3 weekends before we brew, and that's counting this weekend. I know, Kenny, you're rubbing your eyes going, oh my God, that's such a short amount of time. But you know, like that's what it's gonna take, right?
We've done it with less.
Exactly. And I mean, building on past experiences, I think we can do better. Caitlin, go ahead.
And I feel like if we set specific deadlines, we can meet them. We just have to decide what those deadlines are.
Oh yeah. So so Christina, how do you feel about hosting the brew day at your guys' house on the 22nd? Yeah, I like that.
Totally fine with that. So we had tentative plans with Chrissy and Wendy and Anna to brew on the 22nd, but I'm sure in the desire to further the club's agenda and name, I think that they would be happy to delay our meeting and put this on the table.
Or combine the two. I mean, did you guys already hammer out like a recipe and brew day plan? No. Okay, so this might work perfectly in conjunction. This might work perfectly. Okay, yeah. So
I mean, Wendy was going to do an extract brew, so she could bring her setup and we could do an all grain with the other one.
Yes, I like how this is turning out actually. Okay, so recipe deadline by next weekend. If we announce at the recipe deadline, I mean, when we say, hey, we need a recipe for the club to come to an agreement on by the 15th, and we also say we're going to be brewing on the 22nd or 23rd, then we should be good, right? Yeah, give me a temperature test. Do you think that sounds realistic? Okay. Sweet. Okay, Christina, please post about this ASAP on Facebook saying, hey, what have you brewed? We would love to, throw your hat in the ring for the Melvin Brew Competition. This is a club competition that we are trying to come together as one recipe. Talvi, go ahead.
Motion. I don't know if this is the time to do it, but motion to pass that any ingredients required would come from club funds.
Do I have a second? Christina seconds. All right, so the motion on the table is that the club pay for all ingredients for this 5-gallon batch. Should we say 5-gallon or should we say 10-gallon? I don't know. Can I have clarification? 10, Christina? Because if we do 10, then we can share throughout the entire club, the fruits of our labor. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So just for clarification, this motion is to have the club pay for the ingredients for a 10-gallon batch of the agreed upon recipe for the Melvin boil. We have a first. Can I hear that second again? Christina seconds. All right, so please raise your hand if you agree. I mean, if you're God, someone help me. Raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you agree that the club shall pay for all funding towards this project. Any necessary ingredients will be paid for by the club.
Thank you. All right, it looks like we've got a unanimous vote. All right, all those in favor, give me a thumbs down. I mean, sorry, all those in favor, give me a hands up. We already agreed. All right, all those not in favor, give me a thumbs down. No thumbs down. All right. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Tali, for assisting this. Kenny, thank you for pushing the Melvin Boil Rumble. I'm greatly appreciative to you're always bringing to the ground for something like that. Randy, did you have a question? He's talking to a muted mic.
Yeah, I had an enjoyable time. I hope to be there for the brew. What day are you saying? You saying the 22nd, 23rd?
Yeah, so the 22nd or 23rd, I will leave that up to Christina and Hans, as it is their residence that is going to be the hosted brewing platform in Eureka. Randy, do you live in Eureka as well?
Yeah, I live here in Eureka.
All right. Are you part of our Facebook group?
Pardon me again?
Are you part of our Facebook group?
Yes, I follow you on Facebook. I've not joined the club. That's the reason I'm not voting, so I can do that.
That is a-okay. Our online club membership is on our website, Humboldt Homebrewers.org. Matt, can you type our website into the chat here? Thank you, just so he has a clickable link. And Randy, if you want to be part of our email chain, please send an email to our club, which is also on our website, and we'll add you to our monthly, or to our, we basically send out like a once a month email.
Okay.
Awesome. So just to reiterate, the 22nd or 23rd, that will be up to Christina and Hans, and they will push it out on our Facebook group, which day is going to be the brew day. Christina, thank you for pushing also the Melvin discussion for that recipe, because we need to come to a recipe agreement by the end of this coming week. All right. Melvin boil, I feel like, has been addressed. Does anyone feel like there needs to be any more clarification or any more questions asked? Colby?
I just want to welcome our newest member, Randy. I think that's awesome. Yeah, welcome to the club.
Awesome. All right, well, we are going to move on from number 9, which was Melvin Boil Rumble, to number 10, County Fair. I will reach out to the County Fair person as of last year. Last year, before COVID hit, I was in discussion with the County Fair person who was organizing it, and I refined our judging guidelines to be BJCP guidelines, like flat out. Previously, we had some really weird guidelines that were like just kind of heritage and bizarre. We didn't have a way of doing that. I will reach out to them and say like, hey, what is everyone else doing? You know, like the pie judging, the animals, just to get a gauge on what they're anticipating for their county fair year before we jump in and commit to that. Because I want to find out what everyone else is doing. I don't want to be like the sore thumb going, it's a little too early, or yeah, we'd love to do this, and then we're the only people judging something. How do you all feel about that approach? Thumb up, thumb to the side, thumb down. You know, how do you feel about that approach, that asking how everyone else is doing? Okay, so overall, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will email them by the end of this week with the contact information that we have with the club already through our email. All right, I will get back to you before next club meeting at the latest. So after Christina posts this stuff about the Melvin Boyle Rumble, expect a county fair post on our Facebook page saying, hey, county fair is all lights green or like kind of yellow, like, whoa, we don't know quite yet. I'll keep you up to date depending on what they say. All right. Lastly, upcoming meetings. Our next monthly club meeting is going to be May 5th. May 5th is going to be, no, May. It's May now. It's going to be June 3rd, Thursday, June 3rd is our next scheduled club meeting. Officers who are present now, June 3rd, Thursday, June 3rd is what I have. Hans, you're holding up hands. What?
At 7? The time. Same time?
Oh, at 7 p.m. Yeah. Yes, as usual. But it will be via Facebook Rooms. So I will reiterate once again, it will be Facebook Rooms. Tulvey, I would really appreciate it if you could, put it in all caps in the next time that we discuss our next monthly meetings, that it will be held on Facebook Rooms live and not Zoom. Cool. All right. Well, if that is it, I would like to open the floor to social time. Social time where everyone could just, talk and ask
Sorry, I was
questions.
trying to throw up gang signs earlier,
For Christina dances and Hans does gang signs. I love it. That's awesome.
Cool. And depending on, what the county fair comes back with, you might see me asking desperately for judges, or, hey, let's desperately ask for people to enter beer in competitions, because why not?
We just had a 1984 contestant as our lead person, and his beer was infected as all else, and now he's where he's at. So I think that gives us all hope. And also, we've got a good judge. We've got a lot of good judges involved just in this club.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, I'm going to stop recording because now we're done with business and this is all just shooting the shit. All right. So stop the recording.